Shalom, when the star for souls by giving no praise to Yahweh, Bashem Yahshua, Bashem Kadash, double honors to the Apostle Great Millstone, and honors to brothers doing the work of the Most on truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name, in whom the word English calls God, Jehovah, Yahweh, his real name is Yahweh. His son's true name is Yahweh Shai, and when we pray Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahshua, Ba meaning in, Ha meaning da, and Sham meaning names, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick, caught this video the other day. And it was you basically have this life coach, apparently the #1 life coach for women, and she's got, I think they kind of show it here some, I won't play it there, so you see that 8.12 million subscribers, and it's just nonsense. I mean, you look at them fake lips, you look at everything, you're just like, man, this is this is just some dumb bimbo, right? But let's grab this real quick. This is Salach 26:9. The whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks and eyelids. Okay, and you can just tell that this is a hoe. But long story short, she is somehow a a life coach at age 26, mind you. And what I found very interesting is, she basically ends up you're working here she's basically telling women how to get the most out of men, and or basically how to manipulate men into something. Yet you basically see that she ends up marrying this dude here. And this is the problem with YouTube. It's like, this is just a scandal set up just to boost her popularity and views and stuff like that. But just taking it at face value, because that's what the rest of her commentators, rather the women that are listening to her, right, think. Right, so she basically marries this guy, he gets her pregnant, and then he quote unquote cheats, right, while she's 4 months pregnant, right, which a man can't cheat. Right, that is not something that is sluggish, trying to take another wife. Right, that's not something that a man can do, right? So this is Exodus 21, and I'll just read straight from the point, verse 10, right? So if you take him another wife, and that's the point. So a man can take another wife, now a woman can't do the same, right? She hasn't got the liberty to do that. But continuing on, it says, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. Which is why, you hear, the elders and Archims, apostles, Archims speak about this wasn't really every man, right, that had that had just a harem or whatever, because there were duties to it. And that's the problem with the Western world. The Western world has basically minimalized sex to just pleasure, right, to fun, whereas actually there's a duty associated with you basically having a woman, right, which is what you're reading here, right? So if a man did get himself another wife, then he basically he still had to take care, right, of her, right? So this this guy, allegedly, right, cheated on her, quote unquote, 4 months, while she was 4 months pregnant, which as a man, you want to get your rocks off, innit? You get bored, right? That's just the point. The point of this was really, what I got was just the responses from loads of different content creators that were basically cursing the guy out. Remember content, but like women on TikTok or whatever, they were saying, "Oh my God, she got cheated on, blah 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 blah." And now, me personally, I think this Elam chick is a lot prettier than the other. She's a demon. Don't get me wrong. You listen to her speak, it's like you just reasoning, you're hearing a demon. Which is the whole point of this video. That you be with a woman, but they're taking advice from bimbos like this, right? This, once again, this bitch, she's basically talking about how to manipulate a man to get more out of him, right? Which is why ultimately, man, in these last days, right, a lot of women ain't gonna make it, right? Because they're manipulative, they're demons, right? And yeah, that's just it. They've done a lot of wrong. So you're gonna have a lot of men that when society breaks down, right, that they're basically gonna be hunting, right, for the women that have done them wrong, right? And that's all going to be judgment of the Lord, right? Because you see, the Most High is not a respecter of persons, right? Let me grab that real quick, right? Because most I don't care, right? We're also gonna get Ezekiel 9 as well, right? Right, this is Romans 2 and 11. For there is no respect of persons with the Most High. So Most High don't care, right? And you get an example of that in Ezekiel 9. And I'm going to read from verse 4. The point I want is a little later down, right? But it says, And Yahweh said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, to the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sign, that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Right now, listening to this is all just an abomination, right? First and foremost, you see the, her channel name, you see Wizard Liz, right? What does the scripture say, right? Let's grab that as well, right? This is Exodus 22:18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, right? And the fact that as well she said wizard, as well, is that's what like the male, if you will, version of of a witch, right? So the wizard Liz, right? But these times you're listening to her, and then you're just like, this is just a dumb bimbo. You're hearing her talk, she's like a dumb bimbo, has no idea what she's talking about. The point is you still see there, right? 8.12 million subscribers, right? So you get people that are actively listening to this individual, right? That are actively taking what's the word I'm looking for? But basically, they're building their entire worldview, and it's just like this ain't, get in the realms of reality, okay? But the point is, you be talking to a woman, and they'll be getting their talking points from, characters like this, which is why ultimately it's like, yo, if it don't work out, it's the Lord. Right? That's what the scriptures say, right? How's it phrased? Because you got this one, no, I don't know how it's phrased. Well, it's Ecclesiastes 7 and 26, and I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets. And when you're listening to this, all you're hearing is tips to ensnare, and entrap a man, right? And as you're seeing this, lots of millions of people, right, are listening to the things that she has to say. Right now, you could say, oh, they're paid or whatever, what have you, right? But that's still a huge following. And I imagine you get certain people that don't even, what's the word I'm looking for, that don't even listen to, so that don't even subscribe. So imagine the kind of reach that she has, and the kind of people that are just seeing little bits of snippets of what she has to say on other platforms, right? Because some of the people responding, are responding via other platforms and stuff like that, right? So I'm just trying to see, because you know how it is on YouTube. So I'll just leave the link in the description box, right? And then you seen all these there, they were tweaking, right? Certain of these women, they were tweaking, right? Yeah, you called it collective heartbreak. You saw it there, collective heartbreak, right? She's been a big sister. She's 26 years old, right? But just goes to show you that really, Lord ain't dealing with these women, man, right? The scripture says deprived her of wisdom, right? So continues, says, and I find more bitter than, is Ecclesiastes 7:26, and I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, right, and her hands as bands, right? Whoso pleases the Most High shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her, right? So once again, if it don't work out, at the end of the day, man, hey, the Lord's just protecting his man. That's that's what it is, right? It says Salach 25:19. All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman, right? Let the portion of a sinner fall upon her. And then Sirach 26 and 23, a wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth the Lord, right? Because yeah, all of these women, are wicked, they got their issues, right? But then you get you get all the way down to the end of the spectrum to something like this, man, right? Where you just gonna be catching hell, man. Right? You're just gonna be catching hell, just a contradiction, walking. And that's the problem with this online stuff, man. Anyone can just pick up a microphone, right? Anyone can just pick up a camera, right? And then they're getting views because you're gonna have a lot of people that find, this look attractive. Like I said, when if I was to play it, you be like, man, what the hell is this? Uh, you know, um, this character, man. You can just tell she's just a dumb bimbo, right? Don't know if I can say that on YouTube, but you get the point, right? So what else did we have here, right? So yeah, I was reading this in Ezekiel 9, right? So Ezekiel 9 from 4 says, and the Lord Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, to the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sign that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof, right? And as I said, just all of these platforms, it's tiring. It's tiring. All these fresh and fits, these all of these different podcasts, man. It's just like, yo, like, look, the world ain't that deep, right? And this is very much a part also of Esau's plan, right? To have that schism in the household, to have it such that, because these are the same people that will then complain, oh, no men talk to us anymore, right? But these times in London, for example, let me see if I can find one on my other screen, right? In London, for example, see, they're just talking about stuff that really doesn't, because there were bits. Because I'm looking online just now, staring. Let me give this as an example, right? So open image, a new tab, right? And move tab to other. There we go, right? So for instance, there was this, right, on the tube, right, and on our transport network, and here in London, right. So you see staring, intrusive staring, right, of a nature is not tolerated, right. See or experience it on public transport. Text what, where, and when to 61016. In an emergency, always dial 999. Right. So imagine you're seeing that, and subconsciously, what do as a man, you may be like, oh, she looks good. Right, here it is. You just look, but this is something that can be open to interpretation, if you will. Okay, so then it's a thing where it's just like, you have certain individuals that they believe this. They'll be like, wait, he's looking at me. Oh my God, this is that. Right now, as we always say, are they creeps? Yeah, they're always creeps, right? Right, but he has basically used, individuals like this, given them a platform. Once again, 8.12 million subscribers. So she's making big money, right? If it's 185,000 likes, that's like what, 200, maybe a million views. Who knows, right? So all of the money that this individual is getting. Okay, they're listening to all of this, and then guess what? People aren't talking anymore. And that's all part of Esau's plan, right? Which is why you're seeing worldwide birth rates are plummeting. Okay, he don't want people to be talking to each other, right? So that's certainly part of his agenda, right? Which is why he'll push a fresh and fit. Which is why bloody Andrew Tate is always on the bloody, on the news, right? This is Ezekiel 9 and 5. And that says, unto the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eye spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. Right, so you see that, like, the Most High, once again, is not a respecter of person, right? Everyone can, everyone that doesn't please the Most High, right, is going to get it. Everyone that the Most High says, look, man, I'm gonna pull your card on this date. The Most High is gonna get it, right? When you look at the case of America, right, if you ain't of the elect, when the missiles hit, man, it's peak, right? So, yeah, I kind of just wanted to touch, because it was very, very interesting, just like listening to the responses and really just thinking, this is like people actually listen to these individuals. They actually take what it is that they're saying, and then they'll create an entire world view based off of nonsense, right? Based off of stuff that ain't, that is just straight up wickedness. Once again, it's just teaching, women how to ensnare their husband, okay, the man that they're with, right? So once again, it ain't no it ain't no mystery why the Messiah is gonna get down the way he's gonna get down in these last days, right? And why, it mentioned women twice in this in verse 6, right? So like I just wanted to touch on that real quick. As always, edifying. Till next time, say shalom.